Don't be jealous, she said, slipping a gold earring into her left ear. Then she looked at me through the mirror with that same crooked smile, the one she wore when she lied about the credit card bill, when she said she was staying late, when she said his name was Brenda in her contacts. This wasn't a joke. She wasn't bluffing. She was going on a date. Tonight. With someone who wasn't me. And she wanted me to be cool about it. I didn't scream. I didn't curse. I didn't even blink. I just said one line. And that's when the room froze. Her hand stopped midair, makeup brush suspended like a magician's wand. That smirk died so fast, it was like I'd pulled the plug on her entire performance. Silence. Not a single word. Not even a breath. She just stood there, staring at me in the mirror, trying to figure out if I was serious. If I really knew. If I really did what she thought I did. But I didn't move. I let the silence chew on her. She turned around slowly, carefully, like I might explode. What did you say? Still nothing from me. Just a look. A look that said, game over. She stepped closer. Her voice shook, just a little. What did you do? And that's when it started. The unraveling. Her phone buzzed on the dresser. Once. Twice. Then again. She didn't pick it up. She didn't even look at it. Because she already knew. I finally spoke again, softer this time. You should have picked a smarter liar. That's it. That's all I said. And her knees almost gave out. You have to understand, I wasn't always like this. I used to be the guy who forgave too fast, who excused everything. I was the man who turned his head, who wanted peace, who blamed himself. But not tonight. Tonight, I wasn't just her husband. I was her mirror. And she hated what she saw. She tried to laugh. It was barely a breath, more of a nervous hiccup than anything resembling amusement. Her hand brushed through her curls, a twitchy, rehearsed move I'd seen 1,000 times when she was about to lie. But this time, nothing came out. Her eyes darted to the phone buzzing again on the dresser. She ignored it like it was ticking. You're being dramatic, she finally muttered, reaching for her perfume like we were still pretending. Like the illusion hadn't shattered already. We talked about this, remember? We're both free to explore. You even said you were okay with it. I didn't flinch, didn't blink. I just tilted my head, studying her like a stranger. Really? I said quietly. You want to go with that version of the story? Her wrist stopped mid-spray. She glanced at me again, but this time it wasn't defiance in her eyes. It was fear. Not the loud kind, not panic. Worse, it was realization. The moment she understood that I wasn't guessing anymore. That I knew. Tell me something, I asked, walking toward the dresser like I wasn't boiling inside. Do they all know you're married? Or just the one from last Thursday? The perfume bottle slipped from her hand. It bounced once on the hardwood floor and rolled beneath the bed. She didn't reach for it. Didn't move. You went through my phone? She snapped, voice sharp and trembling. No, I said. I didn't need to. You left your Apple Watch on the charger last week. Her lips parted. I walked the same steps you did. Right into the hotel. Even saw the name on the booking. You were lazy. Same email. Same card. Same lie. Now she was pale. Her arms folded across her chest, not out of anger, but defense. She suddenly looked smaller, like the room had gotten too big for her. It's not what you think. Then what is it? I asked. I wasn't yelling. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But my voice stayed cold. Calm. Measured. Because I wasn't here to fight. I was here to watch her fall apart. Her excuses were loading. I could see the gears turning. She'd used every angle on me before. The guilt trip, the blame shift, the crocodile tears. But this wasn't the same Everett she'd manipulated for years. This version of me? He didn't flinch when she cried. She stepped toward me, cautiously, like I might snap. Can we just talk about this later? I have plans. No, I said. He canceled. She froze. What? The guy you're seeing tonight. Michael. Or Mark. Or whatever the hell he calls himself. I messaged him. Told him I was your brother, and you were back with your ex, sent him the screenshots. Her mouth opened and closed. She looked like she wanted to scream, but couldn't find air. You didn't, she whispered. Oh, I did. You should have seen the little essay he wrote back. He had no clue you were married. Said he was gonna pray for me. Cute guy? Now it was all crumbling. Her chest was rising and falling too fast. She wasn't used to losing control. Everett, please. And there it was, my name. First time she used it tonight. Not babe. Not hun. My actual name. Like saying it might tether me back to the version of myself she could manipulate. But she was too late. I turned toward the door and grabbed my coat. Where are you going? She called out. To clear my head, I said. And don't bother calling your mother. She knows too. She's actually a better liar than you, by the way. Kept the secret for 3 months before finally cracking. I didn't look back, but I heard her collapse into the chair. And for the first time in this entire broken marriage, I didn't feel guilty. The air outside felt thinner, colder, like the world had subtly shifted while I'd been rotting inside that marriage. I didn't slam the door behind me. That's what she would have done. Dramatic exits were her style, not mine. I walked out quietly, but deliberately, like a man walking away from the edge of a cliff he'd stared at for too long. The truth is, I didn't even know where I was going. I just got in the car, turned the engine on, and drove. My phone buzzed twice while I was still backing out of the driveway. I didn't check. I knew it was her. Probably trying to switch tactics. Maybe now she was crying, playing the victim, spinning new lies like she always did when her mask slipped. I turned the ringer off. I drove for about 30 minutes in silence before pulling into the parking lot of the only place I could think of, the bowling alley where we had our second date. It was closed, of course. Everything was dark. But that was the point. I sat in my car across from the empty lanes and tried to remember what she looked like when she was still real to me. When her laugh wasn't calculated. When her eyes didn't scan rooms looking for an audience. It's funny how memory plays tricks on you. I could still picture her that night, in that ridiculous pink sweatshirt with the rhinestones and mismatched socks, because she didn't know we were going to bowl. She laughed when she gutterballed and kissed me in the parking lot, even though she said she didn't kiss on second dates. Back then I thought I'd won the jackpot. Now I realize I was being drafted into a game I didn't know the rules of. I sat there for over an hour. My thoughts kept circling the same stupid question. How long had she been planning this? Because it wasn't just cheating, it was strategic betrayal. You don't just slip into heels, schedule hotel rooms under aliases, and coordinate alibis unless you've been rehearsing. And the worst part? I think she got bored waiting for me to find out. That's why she sent the text. That smug little, "Don't be jealous," was her lighting the match just to watch the fire. And me? I'm the guy who built the house out of kindling and didn't even notice the gasoline on the floor. Eventually, I drove to a cheap roadside motel, not because I didn't have anywhere else to go, but because I didn't want anyone to know I'd left. Not yet. I needed to be invisible for a little while. Needed space to think without her poisoning every thought with her voice in my head. The room was small, smelled like burnt coffee and carpet cleaner, and the TV only had 4 working channels. But it was quiet. Blessedly, perfectly quiet. I lay on the bed staring at the ceiling tiles, hands behind my head, and tried to feel something. Anger, relief, sadness. But I didn't feel any of that. Not anymore. All I felt was empty, hollowed out like a dead tree. I wasn't even mad at her. I was mad at me for staying so long, for seeing the red flags and choosing to paint them beige, for apologizing when she snapped, for making excuses to our friends, for smiling in Christmas photos even though I'd slept on the couch the night before. Around 2:30 a.m., my phone lit up again. This time it was a voicemail. I almost didn't listen. But curiosity is a disease. I tapped play. At first, it was just silence. Then her voice, shaky and breathless. Everett, I don't know where you are. Please come home. I didn't mean for it to be like this. I swear, I was just trying to get your attention. I didn't think you'd leave. Can you just call me? Please? We can fix this. Fix this. Like she'd knocked over a glass. Like she hadn't spent months turning our life into theater and inviting strangers backstage. I stared at the phone for a long time after the message ended. Then I deleted it. And for the first time in 11 years, I slept like a man who didn't owe anyone forgiveness. The next morning, I didn't rush to check my phone. That used to be the first thing I did every day. Usually because she'd sent me a passive-aggressive message about forgetting to do the dishes or needing to step up. But not today. Today, I just laid there, staring at the yellowed ceiling of the motel room, listening to the cheap wall unit hum like it was trying to calm me down. I felt strangely steady, not happy, not healed, just clear. And that clarity was terrifying, because it meant I'd finally crossed that line, the invisible one between denial and freedom, the one I'd tiptoed along for years. I didn't text her back. I didn't listen to the new voicemails. There were 5 of them now. I didn't even open the one labeled urgent with 3 exclamation marks. Classic Evelyn. I knew what they would say. She'd rotate through her usual tones. Victim, seductress, martyr. And finally, if none of those worked, threat. That was always her last resort. Make me feel like I was the one who destroyed everything. She'd cry, of course. She always could, on command. But tears don't mean anything when you've watched them dry while she lies through her teeth 5 minutes later. Around noon, I got dressed and drove back toward the city, not to go home, but to sit in the parking lot of her office. That might sound insane, but I needed to see something. I needed to know if she was really unraveling, or if she'd just moved on to whatever version of Everett she'd created to replace me. I waited in the car for 2 hours before I saw her. She walked out of the building wearing the same coat I bought her last Christmas, the one she said made her look like a divorced politician. I guess that irony didn't register back then. She looked tired. Not guilty. Not devastated. Just exhausted. Her phone was glued to her ear, and I watched her pace back and forth near the curb before finally sitting on the bench, talking rapidly to whoever was on the other end. Probably her sister. Or her therapist. Or maybe him, if he hadn't blocked her already after my little truth drop. But here's the thing. Watching her from across the street, I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel possessive or jealous or broken. I just felt distance. The kind of distance you feel when you run into someone from high school you used to obsess over, and now they're just a name with a face you no longer recognize. She looked up suddenly, like she felt something. Her head turned slowly toward my direction. For a split second, our eyes locked, even from across the road. I didn't duck. I didn't hide. I just stared back, calm as still water. Her lips parted, and she stood halfway up, hand gripping her purse like she didn't know whether to run toward me or away from me. I rolled the window down. No words. Just looked at her. 1, 2, 3 seconds. Then I drove off. Didn't speed. Didn't peel out. Just glided away like a ghost. Later that evening, I got another message. Not a voicemail. Not a text. A photo. It was of the dining table at home. 2 plates. Candles. Wine. A meal I knew she didn't cook. And the caption just said, "I made your favorite. Come home." Come home. The audacity. Like home was still a place she belonged to. Like it hadn't been turned into a theater set for her lies and rehearsals. I stared at that photo for a long time. It wasn't the dinner that bothered me. It wasn't even the manipulation. It was the way she still assumed she had time. That no matter what she did, I'd come back. That the version of me who folded at the first apology was still alive. So I took a photo of my motel room. The stained carpet. The flickering lamp. The bag of gas station chips. And I captioned it. "This feels more like home than anything you've given me in years." I hit send. And I waited. No response. Not for 5 minutes. Not for 5 hours. That silence. That was her mask shattering from the inside. It wasn't the silence that got to her. Not at first. Evelyn always thought she could weaponize quiet. She'd mastered the long sighs, the careful pauses in conversation, the cold shoulders that made me question what I'd done wrong even when I'd done nothing. But now that the silence was coming from me, not angry, not begging, just still, she had no idea how to respond. That's what power looks like when you've never held it before. It doesn't scream. It simply stays gone. 2 days passed without a single word from me. I turned off read receipts. Disabled location sharing. Removed her Face ID from my phone. Small things, but they made all the difference. The tighter I shut the door, the more frantic she became. I watched it play out from the outside like someone observing a stranger unravel. If that stranger had once promised to grow old with me. By the 3rd day, I got an email. She'd never emailed me before, not even for bills. It was long, almost a letter. The kind of thing she probably rewrote 5 times before sending. It started with "I'm sorry," which already told me she was lying. People who mean it don't open with it. They end with it, after they've told the truth. She wrote about stress, about loneliness, about how she didn't feel seen, about how we drifted and how she tried to reach me, but I didn't reach back. She painted the picture of a woman quietly drowning in a loveless marriage, desperate for a life raft. It was beautifully written, poetic even. But I knew exactly what it was, an application for forgiveness. The part that really punched me in the gut? She said she only went on the date to feel wanted. That line stuck in my chest like a splinter. Because it wasn't just a lie, it was a projection. For years I had been the one hungry to feel chosen. I'd cooked dinners she scrolled through, wrote anniversary notes she left unopened, sat across from her at restaurants while she stared past me like I was invisible. But now that the mirror was finally facing her, she couldn't stand the reflection. I didn't reply to the email. Instead, I printed it, highlighted the part where she said, "I still love you." Then I folded it, stuck it in an envelope, and mailed it to her parents' house, the same address where she'd sent me our wedding invitations over a decade ago. I didn't add a note. The irony was loud enough. Later that evening, I got a knock at my motel door. I'd expected it eventually. What I didn't expect was her showing up alone. No makeup, hair pulled back, hoodie and sneakers. The version of her I hadn't seen in years. The real her, or at least the one she pretended to be when she needed sympathy. "Can we talk?" she asked, eyes glassy, voice low. I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, looking around the room like she was stepping onto foreign soil. Her hand hovered near the armrest of the chair, but she didn't sit. Just stood there, like she wasn't sure if she was welcome. "You've made your point," she said after a long pause. That phrase, "you've made your point," as if I'd staged some elaborate tantrum instead of walking away from months, years of quiet betrayal. I didn't respond. She turned toward me fully now, that brittle edge creeping into her voice. "So what, Everett? You just disappear? Burn it all down without even giving me a chance to explain?" I raised my eyebrows. "Explain what? That you cheated and made me feel crazy for suspecting it? That you paraded it in front of me and called it freedom? That you were so sure I'd never leave, you didn't even hide it?" She looked wounded, but I didn't stop. "You don't get to spin this like I'm the one who broke something. I just stopped taping together the pieces you kept smashing." She finally sat. Collapsed, really. Her shoulders sagged like all the tension she'd been clinging to had finally betrayed her too. "I didn't think you'd actually go," she whispered. "I thought you'd yell, or cry, or make it about you. That's what you always do." That stung. Maybe because there was a grain of truth in it. I'd always been the emotional one, the overtalker, the man who processed everything out loud. But this time, I'd found strength in the opposite. "Yeah," I said, "that Everett's gone. You buried him. And now all that's left is someone who finally realized your chaos isn't a storm he has to live in." She didn't argue, didn't cry. She just stared at the cheap floor and said the quietest thing I'd ever heard her say. "So what now?" And for once, I had no idea. But I knew this. I wasn't going to be the one to save her. I don't know how long we sat in that motel room without saying anything. 10 minutes? An hour? The TV was off. The air conditioner had kicked into some quiet rattling pattern, and Evelyn just stared at the carpet like it might answer for both of us. Her fingers were clenched together, twisting and untwisting like she needed to hold something or break something or both. It was the first time I'd seen her look truly uncomfortable without playing a role. No performative crying, no fake outrage, just stillness. It would have been easier if she yelled, if she threw a glass or accused me of being cold or selfish. But that would have meant she still had fight left. This wasn't a woman fighting. This was a woman realizing she'd already lost. She finally spoke, voice brittle. "So what, you're just done? Just like that?" I didn't answer immediately. I didn't want to say something easy. I wanted her to sit in the uncertainty, the kind she'd built her entire relationship with me around. Because that's what it had always been about, hadn't it? Keeping me off balance. Every time I got too confident, she'd withdraw. Every time I got suspicious, she'd smother me in just enough affection to make me question my instincts. It was a pattern, and I let it happen because I thought that's what love required. Flexibility, patience, tolerance. But there's a fine line between patience and enabling, between love and addiction. And I had crossed that line so many times I didn't know where I ended, and she began. "I don't know if I'm done," I finally said, and she looked up like that was her cue to start hoping again. "But I know I'm not the man you married anymore. You don't get to cheat on me and then come here asking me to tell you how to fix it." "That's not what I'm doing," she said quickly, but her tone betrayed her. She was absolutely doing that. "You came here because I didn't chase you," I continued, leaning forward now, elbows on my knees. "Because the script you wrote for me didn't play out the way you rehearsed it. You thought I'd come crawling back, crying, asking what I did wrong. You thought I'd be begging for a second chance at a marriage you already burned down." Her expression tightened, but she didn't interrupt. "You were right about one thing," I added. "I did lose myself. I spent years shrinking so you could feel big. I tiptoed around your moods. I let you convince me that every argument was my fault, even when it wasn't. I let you rewrite history because I was too afraid to be alone." She blinked rapidly. Not crying. Not yet. Just processing. But then you handed me the truth, I said. Not with an affair. Not with a hotel receipt or a lipstick stain on some stranger's shirt. No. You gave me the truth in the most brutal, unfiltered way possible. You told me. You stood in our bedroom, put on your earrings, and said you had a date. With a smile. And that's the moment you lost me. She opened her mouth to speak, but I stopped her with a gesture. Not aggressive, just final. I'm not saying this to hurt you, I said. I'm saying it because I don't think you've ever heard me speak without fear before. You never planned for this version of me. The one who doesn't need you to validate his pain. The one who doesn't need to win an argument to feel seen. The one who finally understands that love without respect is just manipulation with better lighting. That last line hit something in her. I saw it. Her body sagged, and for a moment, I could almost see the weight she'd been carrying. Not guilt, but exposure. She was finally realizing she couldn't hide behind the old illusions anymore. That I had seen too much, grown too much, changed in ways she hadn't predicted. I don't hate you, I said, standing up now. But I don't trust you. And that's worse. She nodded slowly. Just once. Her lips were trembling now, and I knew the tears were coming, but I didn't stay to watch. I grabbed my jacket from the chair, pulled open the door, and stepped out into the fading light of dusk. The air smelled different, like rain was on its way. Behind me, she didn't follow. And for once, I didn't turn around. The night after she showed up at the motel, I went for a walk, not to clear my head, but because I couldn't stand the walls anymore. Everything inside that room had begun to feel like her voice echoing in my head, her perfume lingering in the seams of my jacket, her betrayal burned into the texture of every silence. I needed air. Not deep breaths. Not calm. Just distance. The kind you can only get when your shoes are moving and you don't know where they're going. I ended up 2 towns over without realizing it, standing in the parking lot of a 24-hour diner we used to go to when we were broke and in love. I hadn't planned it, but there I was, outside the place where she once told me she couldn't wait to have kids, where we argued over pie and laughed about names for imaginary dogs we'd never adopt. I thought the memories would hit harder. Instead, they just felt like stories from someone else's life. Like I was remembering a movie I once liked, but couldn't remember why. I went inside, ordered coffee. No sugar. The waitress, her name tag said Shauna, asked if I was okay. I told her yes. She didn't believe me, but she didn't push. Just kept the refills coming and gave me that kind of tired kindness you only learn after decades of watching broken people stare into cups like they hold answers. That's when I got the message from Carly. If you don't remember, Carly is Evelyn's younger cousin. She used to babysit our neighbor's kids, helped Evelyn plan our anniversary party 3 years ago, and once told me that she didn't believe in marriage because people stop pretending once the ring goes on. I hadn't heard from her in over a year. The message was simple. You need to know what she did last month. Call me. It's about your brother. My stomach dropped. I hadn't spoken to my brother, Luke, in almost 6 weeks. We weren't fighting, just drifting, like men do. We grew up close, but adulthood and distance turned talk to you soon into something nobody schedules. I immediately called Carly. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was shaking. Not dramatic. Not performative. Real. I didn't want to get involved, Everett. She started, breath hitching. But I can't sit with it anymore. I thought maybe it was a mistake, but then I saw your post. And the photo. And I knew she was trying to pull you back in. I stayed quiet. Let her talk. Last month, at my friend Haley's engagement party, Evelyn showed up with Luke. My jaw locked. She said you were going through something, and that she didn't want to come alone. But it wasn't just that. They were close. Like too close. Like holding hands when they thought no one was looking. Whispering. Disappearing for 20 minutes, and coming back flushed. I felt the blood drain from my face. They left together. I asked Luke about it later. He told me I was imagining things. Said she was just emotional, and he was being supportive. But Everett, I saw the way she looked at him. It wasn't new. It looked like something that had been simmering for a while. I couldn't breathe. I tried to say something, but no words came out. I don't know if anything happened, Carly said quickly, like trying to patch a wound with duct tape. But the way she talks about him when you're not around, it's not normal. It's obsessive, possessive even, like he's a trophy she couldn't win, so she settled for you. I ended the call. Politely. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just thanked her and hung up, then sat in that booth for what felt like hours, the coffee going cold in front of me while my brain spun through every holiday dinner, every text I missed, every weird joke between Evelyn and Luke that I'd laughed off. I thought the worst of it was her cheating, but that was just the surface. This wasn't infidelity. This was something more calculated, something personal. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd used someone from my own bloodline as a mirror, a way to reflect everything I wasn't and rub it in until I cracked. I got up and left cash on the table. Didn't even ask for change. When I got back to the motel, I found a note slid under the door. Her handwriting. It read, "Let me explain. Please, don't make this the end." But she didn't know. It already was. I didn't open the envelope right away. I saw it when I stepped into the motel hallway, tucked halfway under the door like a white flag. Her handwriting stared up at me, all soft loops and calculated vulnerability. I picked it up and sat on the edge of the bed, but I didn't read it. Not yet. Instead, I looked around the room, at the flickering lamp, the scratched nightstand, the hum of the broken fridge that had been my soundtrack for a week. It wasn't luxury. It wasn't home. But it was honest. No lies in the carpet. No infidelity in the drywall. Just a man, a key card, and the sound of his own thoughts finally not being interrupted. When I finally opened the envelope, I braced myself for one last manipulation. But it wasn't like that. Not this time. It was short. Sincere, maybe. Or maybe she just ran out of spin. "You won, Everett. You got your freedom. I don't expect you to come back. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. Not because I lost you, but because I see now I never really deserved you. And you never deserved the version of me I became." That was it. No begging. No guilt traps. Just the truth, or the closest she'd ever come to it. And weirdly, I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt light. That night, I packed my bag. I didn't even think about where I was going next until I was already driving. I called Luke, calmly, directly. Told him I knew. I didn't yell. I didn't demand answers. I didn't even wait for a response. I just said, "I hope it was worth it," and hung up. Then I turned off my phone. For good. I drove east for hours. No destination. No plan. Just freedom. A kind of freedom that doesn't come with winning. It comes with letting go. I ended up in a small town by the water. Quiet streets. A bookstore that still smelled like paper instead of Starbucks syrup. An old couple walking their dog at sunset without saying a word to each other. The kind of silence that didn't hurt. I rented a tiny cabin for a month, paid in cash, and introduced myself to the landlord as just E. No one asked questions. No one expected me to explain who I was or what I'd lost. I started fixing things, little things. A leaky faucet in the cabin. A jammed window. I helped the neighbor haul firewood one morning, and he offered me a job repairing docks on the lake. I said yes without thinking. Days turned into weeks. I didn't keep track. I didn't check social media. I didn't chase closure. And somewhere in all that silence, I found something I hadn't felt in years. Myself. Not the version she needed. Not the version I tried to be. Just me. A man with calloused hands, tired eyes, and a heart that wasn't broken anymore, just wiser. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and the lake turned to gold, I sat on the dock with a cup of coffee and realized something important. She had taken so much from me. Years, trust, belief. But in the end, she gave me the one thing I never would have found if she hadn't betrayed me. The courage to start over. And no matter what happened next, whether I met someone new, stayed single forever, or just lived quietly fixing broken things, it would all be mine. On my terms. And this time, I wouldn't apologize for choosing peace.